actually Amy Hartnell.
Sorry?
It's actually Amy Hartnell.
It's Amy Hartnell. So, I had Ruth Jones and Amy Hartnell. I was looking at the wrong page, so I apologise for that. And I was actually looking around for Ruth because I know Ruth, and I was thinking I can't see her there.
We have her other half, Gary Williams.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I hadn't done the connection there. I didn't even know. Okay. Right. Right. Hi, Gary.
Gary.
I also have some additional information if you guys would like that as well.
Yes, that'd be great. Somebody will come down and get that.
Cheers. Thanks everyone for sticking in there. So I'm Amy Hartnell. I'm talking on behalf of the Earthquake Disability Leadership Group. We're an advocacy group advocating for a more accessible Christchurch with the rebuild. A few weeks ago as a group we undertook an exercise to reconfirm our vision and key messages, and they are actually on the back of the document that you've been handed out. One of the questions we were asked as part of that exercise was, if we've been successful as an advocacy group, what will Christchurch look like in 2025? Our future Christchurch is a built environment that people of all abilities can use safely and with ease. And by built environment, we include buildings, public spaceways, public spaces and pathway connections. We see disabled people in employment and being generators of wealth. We see disabled people as customers and consumers. We see disabled people being able to visit the city as tourists. We see opportunities to participate in decision making, and that society has the capacity to integrate disabled people into the fabric of the city. So back to 2015, how do we make that vision happen? It goes without saying that Christchurch is currently in a fairly unique position. The Canterbury earthquakes have given the city the opportunity to remove one of the major barriers for disabled people to participate in the community, and that is physical access. As a group, we're really excited about the talk around accessibility. It's strongly identified in the Share an Idea initiative. The concept appears in recovery plans, and it has been said that Christchurch will become the most accessible city in the world. But do key players really know how to achieve that? And do they know what that actually looks like? One of our major concerns is that the current building code and standards, design practices and construction methods are still lagging behind in creating what we would call a genuinely accessible built environment. The current building code still allows a compliant, accessible route to be one which is separate or segregated from the one that family and friends would use, such as the front entrance. It still makes compliant that there needs to be only one accessible entranceway. But what about the other issues, such as how a person finds the building or able to use the building once they're inside to achieve a task? There is also the thinking that accessibility means only considerations for wheelchair users, without functionality for those with sensory impairments, intellectual disabilities. And what about older adults, families with children, even visitors to the city? Our other concern is that current policymakers have a differing opinion on what an accessible city is or means. Just to be clear, it is not our view that an accessible city means a city with great transport links. The Christchurch Central Recovery Plan states that the redevelopment of Christchurch provides a significant opportunity to address accessibility. The buildings, open spaces and facilities that people visit, work and live in need to be safe, accessible and people-friendly. The long-term plan also makes statements in its community outcomes, such as people have equitable access to parks, open spaces, recreation facilities and libraries, and that the central city is used by a wide range of people for an increasing range of activities. Our question to you is, what does Christchurch 2025 look like to you if these outcomes have been achieved? How will you know if they've been achieved, and what is the accountability for ensuring that it occurs? Bringing it back to our submission, our first topic was strengthening our community facilities, heritage and housing. The council has a lot of work to undertake in its own backyard in terms of repairing and rebuilding community facilities, recreation facilities, public spaces and anchor projects. Our question to you is, what is your commitment to ensuring these facilities are going to be genuinely accessible to its citizens? What policies, strategies, regulations are you going to put in place to ensure it occurs? And following on from that, when projects are contracted out or carried out in partnership with other agencies or other arms of the council, such as the New Development Christchurch, will the commitment to use best practice accessible design be part of the mandate for that project? Our other topic was public transport and cycleways. The built environment is not the only element to consider in creating a genuinely accessible Christchurch. The journey to and from a destination is just as important. Am I able to find and get to my destination safely and with ease? In terms of public transport, these elements include the pathway to the bus stop itself, the buses, passenger lounges, supply of information regarding routes and timetables. Creating a safe, accessible, usable public transport journey functions well for disabled people, older adults, parents with children, visitors and tourists to the city. The other area in the topic is cycleways. There has been a lot of media on the topic of cycleways and reformatting the city to encourage residents to cycle or use public transport. There are currently 3 transport proposals seeking submissions right now. In these proposals, cyclists have been taken off the road and into a shared pathway situation with pedestrians. The cyclists have gone from being the vulnerable element on the road to the hazard on the footpath. Pedestrians with sensory impairments, older adults, parents with young children have now become the vulnerable group, at risk of collision when cyclists are coming past in both directions at speed. The shared pathway model is one example of not using best practice accessibility design methods. So what needs to happen? What are our suggestions and what is our feedback? Accessibility is enhanced when local and national government stakeholders and community have a joint and clear understanding of what it means. We all need to be on the same page. Then accessibility needs to be integrated into all levels of decision making, planning and design. Regulations and policy need to be implemented in order to achieve a genuinely accessible city. Currently, the Building Act, Building Code and New Zealand Standard 4121 still do not provide the appropriate level of regulations and legislation to ensure that it occurs. However, they are currently under review and we fully support the long-term goal of achieving legislation to ensure accessibility means usability and inclusion. However, the current opportunity provided in Christchurch will be missed if we do not take our own initiative to make our own changes. First and foremost, we'd like the commitment from the Council that best practice accessibility design is a priority for all of its own facilities, public spaces and anchor projects. We would like that commitment shown through policy and highlighted in planning processes. The CCDU Avon River project team utilised a great process of working with the experts in order to achieve their project met the accessible needs of the public. Their model provides a great example of how consultation at every critical stage of design and construction can achieve the desired outcome, a genuinely accessible public space. Secondly, we have a proposal currently sitting with the Minister of Disability Issues that we'd like the Council to support. This involves taking a local measure to implement a mandatory independent accessibility audit of all commercial and public buildings and open spaces. We understand this action requires no change to legislation and is being recommended by the consent sector. We're confident of the benefits of an accessibility audit conducted by a specialist to not only the building consent and inspection process, but also to increase the understanding, knowledge and awareness of architects, designers and developers. And I've handed out a copy of that proposal that's sitting with the Minister. To sum up the EDLG, we have confidence that we all want a city to be inclusive to all people. The question is, are you willing to make that happen? Thanks. Hand it over.
We are certainly willing to make it happen, want it to happen. Yeah. Well, I was just checking with Vicky the name of but we use the LifeMark standard on our own buildings. But we can't, well, we've tried to include that in our district plan. So I hope that you are making submissions on the district plan review, because if it doesn't survive that, then we won't be able to have it enforced.
So LifeMark's a standard for residential housing?
Yes, I know, but that's what we want to achieve. Yes, I know that. I mean, okay. I know it's only one element of it.
The reason I didn't mention that is because we've actually had really good information from people within council and councillors that you have that commitment to doing LifeMark for housing, yep. And we're really confident that you everyone
to build that way.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not just the council housing that's good enough.
Yeah, it's a partnership.
Anyway. Vicky, sorry.
So in the district plan, we would like to achieve 6-star in the Green Star
Homestar rating and in the Life Mark as well, such that any new houses built are actually meeting those standards.
Mm-hmm.
We are struggling getting that through. And so what we're trying to suggest to you is that
Just
you might
gently.
like to, just ever so gently, is that we've left it in, but it is slightly tenuous.
How about
It could be
we
vulnerable.
support you and
How about you do?
support our initiative
Yes,
for
that's a fair
mandatory
That's a
accessible
fair trade-off.
audits?
And I like the way you do
we
business.
could work together.
Right. So Tim and Phil and Yanni.
I'm not sure if did you see the presentation made by those that wanted the boardwalk or the promenade? Sorry, in New Brighton.
Not this
Well,
morning.
I'll just pass it. It's just one of the standards that they want is that it's accessible for all, including disabled. So that's one of the standards that they're setting for that project. So I'm presuming you'd be a great supporter of that project.
Like with our submission, we make it really clear that there are experts in terms of accessible design, and all we're really asking is that the experts are consulted. Barrier-free, Blind Foundation, CCS, they all provide a really good auditing service, and they do have the technical expertise. So it would be our mandate that you consult the experts with all projects and just get the expert advice as you would with any other project.
As long as we ensure that they're doing that.
Yeah, as long as they've got that as part of their building process and planning process and design process, then we would be really supportive of that.
Phil?
Thank you. I just wondered if day-to-day wise, and when it comes to parking for people with disabilities, around the accessibility for that, particularly probably in relation to our council facilities, like clearly post-earthquake there's been some disruption. But I'm wondering, my main question is, do you have a conduit to our organisation to comment, on accessible parking for people with disabilities?
I would probably CCS.
We get to CCS because they operate the operation mobility package too, and they're probably more okay with the nuances of parking.
Yeah. So they also distribute the parking passes, and so they would have a really good idea of all the mobility parking around the city, what they've lost and what's currently in play.
And they're probably getting all the complaints anyway.
Yeah, so they would hear all the feedback from the public. So CCS, if we could be the conduit between you and them. Yeah.
Yep, that's great. Yanni?
I just wanted to check if you've been involved at all with the memorial earthquake or the earthquake memorial design. I know initially from the drawings I saw, it was really obvious that there hadn't been much consideration.
There's been a lot more work done on it. It's just been announced today.
It's just been announced today.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's been
we
some
did
changes
do a submission for that, and we didn't submit for a preferred design, but we did submit that again, part of the design process and planning and construction is that you consult with the experts to make sure that they are genuinely accessible. And when I talk about genuinely accessible, there's no point having a ramp over here and stairs over here. It's about everyone using the space together, and for designers and planners to really be innovative and come up with a way that we can all be in the same space together.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I don't know whether you've had any feedback. I mean, it got announced today. We haven't been briefed on it, but I presume that hopefully they've responded.
We haven't been briefed on it yet, but
that they will
it's
have a
going
process
through an
where you
iterative process now.
involved.
So
Yeah.
they've announced the winning design, and now they
Right.
go through a process of
Right.
working with the designer, through a process. But I'm actually on the the sort of kind of governance group with the minister. The two ministers, the Minister for Arts, Culture and Heritage, and the Minister for, the Associate Minister for Earthquake Recovery's
Who's
kind of
also
been
the
delegated that.
She's also
And-
the Minister for Disability Issues.
Yes, she is,
Yes.
and which is why I'm sure what I'm going to say next is not going to surprise you. And also Mark Solomon from Ngāi Tahu. So it's kind of the strategic partners are in this together. And that has been a concern that's already been kind of put on the table. So it's not going to be lost. And I'm sure that the group will want to hear themselves what others have to say about as the design progresses.
And I was just going to ask also, we make a lot of submissions on government legislation. Recently we made one around the changes to the building standards, and unfortunately, well, in my personal view, we removed the requirements for certain disability standards. So I just wondered whether we need to think of a level of service or a process by which, if we're making submissions to government on certain things that have an impact, that we should probably consult with you first so that we can get your input, because, I mean, we obviously have personal views.
Slightly off track here, but what submission was that? Because the last submission that we did was that we said we didn't want the law changed.
No, this was around, this was slightly different. This was around the building regulations.
Yeah, but we said that we didn't want an exemption for earthquake strengthening. We actually specifically put that in the submission.
I thought we'd taken it out. So,
No.
but I guess I was really interested in how do we integrate input from you into our submissions or decision making?
I would say contact us and ask
Yeah,
for advice.
I'm thinking
yeah.
maybe what we need to be doing is actually bringing you onto a committee that's considering a submission of that nature, or where there is an issue that specifically does require that. But it does also suggest that we've got more decision-making power than we actually have at the moment.
Yeah,
So.
the EDLG is an advocacy group made up of a lot of different agencies and organisations such as Barrier Free, Blind Foundation, CCS. So together as a group we could definitely provide you with the information and technical expertise that you need for submissions.
Excellent.
And it would just be our mandate. It is important to start getting the accessibility into all levels of planning and regulation and strategy from the top.
I mean, it's interesting, you know, when we deal with, you know, sort of runanga issues, that we'll get pointed in the right direction by, you know, an agency that's been set up that represents the 6 runanga that we deal with.
Yeah.
So, and they just point us in the right direction when we need to be consulting on a particular issue, and maybe that's a role that you guys could play as well.
We would be very interested in playing that role.
That would be excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you for
you.
your submission.
Thanks for your time.
No, thank you for yours. Warren Feeney, Arts Voice, Christchurch.